Episode of the Weber State Weekly Football Show. We're a member of the Big Sky Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Colby Peterson. On our panel today, Chris Ferry, back to chat football with us, man. Chris, thanks so much for taking some time to join me tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again.
Yeah.
Guess I did something right last time. You had me back.
Nah, man, you were good. And so,
All
like I
right.
said, we're grateful to have you and talk a little football, man,
Yeah,
because
thank you.
it's good to have it back, man. We've been waiting a while, so glad to have it.
Oh, yeah, for
But
sure.
let's talk a little bit about today's show. We got another player interview for you folks. We're going to be talking to, if you watched our live stream on Instagram after the game last week, we talked a lot about junior cornerback Maxwell Anderson. So he's on the show tonight. Talk to us a little bit about his time at Weber State. Talk to us, of course, about what happened on Thursday night at Stewart Stadium. Then we're going to break down the game, talk a little bit about some things that we saw in the game against Western Oregon. And then I've got a game for Chris called This or That. I'm going to kind of give him two options, and we're going to let him choose and see what he thinks. So before we get into all that, I want to encourage everybody to subscribe to the show, whether that's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all good places to find Weber State Weekly. You can also media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Twitter, one of the best places to interact with the Weber State Weekly team, especially on game day. I think we're planning to do some watch parties when we get some road games going, and so probably won't do one this week because we want everybody to head up to Logan to watch the team play against the Aggies. But when we hit the road, say against Davis coming up soon, probably do a watch party on Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, get on our space and come hang out with us so we can all watch the game together. Then, of course, we have a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Weber State Weekly, become a patron and support us. I want to thank all of our patrons thus far that have supported the work that we're trying to do to highlight Weber State and the athletics and the things going on up on campus. Really want to grow the fan base and build the culture around these teams. And so appreciate our patrons who allow us to do this every single week. Thank you to you guys. So, all right, mischief managed, man. We've gone through all the intro stuff. Now let's talk to our player interview. We got junior cornerback Maxwell Anderson on the show with us tonight. Maxwell, thanks so much, man. Like we said, for taking some time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you. And so, you're a junior this season, but I wanted to go back a little bit. I want to kind of start at the beginning. That's what I like to do in my interviews. You're from the same hometown as my father-in-law, Hayward, California, roughly. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, man, because looking at some of your prep stats, which was a little while ago now, but the thing that stuck out to me was your athleticism, man. At Moreau Catholic High in Hayward, you were a two-sport athlete, man. You played, obviously, cornerback in high school, but then you were also league MVP in hoops, man. So I wanted to ask a little bit about that. Like, it seems like you could have gone a couple of ways, but you chose football. What was it about football that drew you to the D1 ranks instead of maybe basketball?
I would say my family origin got a little aggressive as I started to get a little bit older, and football just started to turn out like the thing that I love. But I was always good at basketball, thanks to my dad. Growing up, just going training and for both sports and just being an athlete. He never wanted us to play one sport. So growing up, knowing that, always led me to just be the best I can in both, so I could have the option later on in life to choose what I like best. And I just love the game of football, so I chose football.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. I mean, like you said, and that's usually the decider for a lot of guys, right? Is they have talent in both, and so they just say, got to pick one, getting offers for both, ultimately make the decision. And for you, football was the love, and so that's the direction you want. And sticking with a position that you knew, cornerback, getting to play it at the next level, man. Talk to us a little bit about that. Like, was it easy to make that transition? Say, like, all right, I know this position a little bit. Now I'm under the tutelage of a former cornerback himself, head coach Jay Hill. Like, talk to us a little bit about that, man, about playing the position in high school, now playing it at the D1 level in college.
See, if I'm going to be real, playing in high school, I played off pure athleticism. Like, I didn't have no technique, no real knowledge of a football game. So coming here was big for me, and under Coach Hill, it just was lovely because getting into the film room as soon as I got here, he taught me so much stuff that honestly I didn't even know about football when I was in high school. So he really expanded the game for me and allowed me to spread out my cocoon, and just be the best player I can now. Just off film study and learning little techniques that can help me get into a play or see something faster off a receiver's stem.
Chris, questions for Maxwell Anderson, man.
Yeah. Maxwell, you mentioned your father. I was out around town on Thursday on game day, and in the store I was in, I saw a little distance away, so I didn't actually get to talk to him. But gentleman walking around with a Weber State jersey with Anderson on the back. I'm guessing that was your father.
Yeah, definitely. He's a big supporter.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to ask you: what does it mean to you and to the other players when you have family members and those that support you come into town, especially when it's it takes quite an effort to come in from the Bay Area and be there to support you, because it's not the first time I've seen your father there at the game. So, what does that mean to you and your teammates when you have fans or family members in the crowd like that?
It means everything. Obviously, you love to have your family there watching you play the game that you love, and if you have a reason or a bigger why than just football, and my why is my family, that means everything in the world, because my family travels well. So when we have big games, I get like my grandma come out here, my cousins, my aunties, my uncles. So that makes
awesome.
me like it makes me lock in way more, because I know that I got to do this for them, and it's just lovely. I love to make them proud. So
love to have them in the stands. That's awesome. Sticking with the family theme, your brother LJ is on the team. What's that been like to have him to play with him and have him on the team? And what role, if any, did you have in the getting him there at Weber State?
I think it's an honor. Not a lot of people get to play with their siblings, so I just want to say that's lovely. First off, I live with my brother. My brother's actually in the other room right now, so just not leaving my family. I have somebody that I'm always close to, and I could lean on whenever I get down, and it just means a lot to me. So on the field, we already had chemistry because we played in high school together, plus the beginning of our lives. So it's just like, once you get out here, I'm gonna teach you what I know and what I learned from when I first got here to help him fit in the scheme, and he's getting it now and he's rolling. So it's glad to just see him like get better each day, and it just feels good to me.
Awesome.
So, Maxwell, you're from not very far outside of the Bay Area. I mean, an A's fan by chance?
I don't really watch baseball like that, but if I had to pick, I'd probably pick the A's just because my dad liked the A's.
There you
So-
go. So Chris is a
yeah.
long-suffering A's fan.
That was one of my questions I was going to ask you, being from the Bay Area. I actually like two Bay Area related teams. Those are my teams. I was going to ask you A's or Giants, and then also Raiders, 49ers, because I root for the Raiders and I'm a big A's fan as well.
Man,
Or neither. Do you have another?
I'm a 49ers. Yeah.
All
Very,
right.
very diehard. Like I really rock with the Niners. So I don't really even like the Raiders too much.
Okay. That's okay, man.
Yeah, sure. No, but I respect your decision though.
Well, you have to say what's up to Tim Crompton, fellow 49ers fan as well, man. So,
Yes, sir.
well, let's talk a little bit about football, man. So as a freshman, like you said, you came in, Coach Hill, kind of got you in the film room, started coaching you up quite a bit. And I mean, you got a lot of experience right out of the gate, man. You played in 14 games in the 2019 season as a freshman. Coach Hill talked a little bit about that season, about how he was breaking in a new secondary. You were a member of that. You and Eddie kind of like together on the corners, man. And so I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about that. Like, talk to us about your progression throughout 2019, because obviously it's a jump to go from high school up to a D1 level. And you seem to handle it really well, man. And it culminated, in a stellar performance against Montana in the playoffs. You had a pick in that game. I was at that game. Chris, you were at that game, right? Like, it was just, it felt like a culmination of your freshman year, man. And so talk to us a little bit about that, about how, how your progression went. Because what we saw, from the stands, it felt like this kid is just going up, up, up. But maybe it wasn't like that. Maybe there was some up and down. So talk to us about that 2019 season.
Well, everybody has their journey, and life's a roller coaster. But coming into 2019, I just felt like it was home, like right away. Watching film, like I said, with Coach Hill, but also like the players. Desmond wasn't here, but we had Preston Smith. We had Mark Collins. It was just like people that I called my big brothers when I first got here. Like they just took me in under a wing and really helped me develop. Jumping from like when I first got here, I was running with the twos, so it's like you're getting real reps, and then I'm going with the ones, and I was getting down on myself because like I said, I'm a competitor and I don't like to get beat, and I was getting beat when I first got here, which was part of the roller coaster that I mentioned, and like just going along and being through all those experiences allowed me to realize that corner is the position for me. Like if I have the mindset that I could just move on to the next play, whether good or bad, and I could continue to make plays, I think I'd be in the right spot. And that's what everybody harped on it when I first got here. Don't let one big play or one bad play get to you, and just continue to move on. And I feel like just the messages I got and the knowledge I gained from when I got here really helped me go on my freshman year.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it seems like you got a lot of opportunities that you ramped up pretty quickly, man. I mean, like you said, starting with the twos, then with the ones. We talked to Preston. That was our last interview last season. Kind of going out and probably had a big impact. It sounds like on you, and so I kind of want to ask, like, now that you're a junior, like, what's been your role? Like, do you kind of see yourself transitioning into the role that some of those guys had with you, where they were sort of like taking you under the wing? You doing that with some of the young kids, or has it just been sort of, well, I'm not a senior yet,
Definitely. I'm big on passing knowledge. People passed it to me, so there's no reason to be selfish with it. The young guys on our team, they're learning really fast, and I don't really have to say much. But when they do ask me questions, I wrap my arm around them, or I pick them up and just let them know that it's gonna get easier. Like college football is a real fun game, and you got to make it fun. So it's just little lessons that I was taught that I could pass on. And I'm thankful for that.
Chris, what else you got for us tonight?
Yeah, those were, I was going to ask you if you kind of thought with the 2 interceptions of Thursday, maybe you felt like that was the best game he played here. But that Montana game, that's hard to beat, I think. You had the 3 pass breakups in that game, which were huge, the interception, 3 solo tackles. So those games really stick out in my mind about maybe some of the great moments you've had here, probably in your mind too. But I also wanted to ask you about this moment. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
That was here. I'll show that again. If you remember, that was at the Eastern Washington game last year. If you can see, yeah, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. What was your reaction when you realized that was caught on camera and that kind of hit social media like that? And
honestly,
we see maybe a little bit about that moment, if you even remember it.
Yeah, just very faintly. I just remember seeing it on the plane. I was just, I get caught up into the game, so it was natural for me. We went in, and I'm a competitor, so I don't even know why I did it. I couldn't even tell you, but just seeing that it was caught, it was a cool little image. I still have that picture as well. So.
Oh yeah, that's a classic one. Yeah,
it is.
Nice.
Me too.
I gotta make a GIF of it. I gotta go find it, make a GIF.
Yeah, right.
Because I gotta make GIFs for this season, man. I haven't made any yet, so gotta get on that.
That's right.
But Maxwell, let's talk a little bit about Thursday night, man. Because first game of the season against D2 opponent, had originally probably had been planning for James Madison, but got news a few months ago that wasn't to be the case. Actually ended up playing a team just 20 minutes from me, Middle Tennessee State, right out here outside of Nashville, and so instead ended up taking on Western Oregon, a D2 team, and you ended up coming away from that game with 2 picks, almost 3, like this close, almost 3, man. And so I wanted to ask you, kind of like, it seems like something's different this season. Something's working better for you, because previous to that, your career total was 2 picks. You doubled that in a night, almost added to that with a third. What's different for you, man, this year? I mean, kind of what's working early, because from what we saw on Thursday night, things are looking good on the outside so far.
I think, honestly, I believe just my mindset. As I get older, as we talked about the younger guys coming in and me stepping into more of a leadership role, I have to improve for my team. So I just feel like me stepping up and watching film and knowing what's coming, I could play a little bit faster it just allows me to get a head start on what a player is running, and film study is big for me right now because over the off season, I put in a lot of work because I didn't really feel like I held up to my expectations last year. So, I'm always trying to get better. So just this season is me improving every game and me improving my mentality, my effort, and just looking like a real guy on the team. So I just had to stand out. And I felt like I did that one game, but that's not all that I'm coming for. So
Sure.
that was just the beginning.
Yep, just the start. Chris, I'm going to let you have the last question of the night here, and then we'll let Maxwell go get on with his life.
Okay. Yeah. Well, just adding on to that, I think you're going to have a huge year because, and you mentioned that you've worked hard this offseason. Coach Dyson, he said in those little position previews that you've shown the most growth in this offseason, the whole cornerback group. I was just looking at your history, your bio history on the Weber State site. It looks like you've put on, if this is correct, 15 pounds since your freshman year. So you've obviously been working in the gym hard. So I think you're poised for a big year. And we got a taste of that on Thursday, more to come. The last question I might just have for you, just currently, we're in this killer heat wave. It's been 100 or at 100 or more for a week. And I know that game on Thursday was hot. What does the team do differently when you have these high temperatures? Anything different? You practice at a different time or take more breaks during practice to just try to hydrate? Anything like that?
Honestly, hydration probably is the only thing, but we don't really complain about the weather. I feel like our team is so tough that Coach Hill instilled in us that if it's going to be hot, we got to be mentally prepared because we can't stop weather conditions on game day. And he always says control the controllables. So that's something that's not a controllable. So you have to go out there and give your 100% effort each day. Now you can get water, you can hydrate, and that's what we do at practice. We'll probably add an extra a water break to get some Powerade in or something. But after that, it's just grind. It's nothing but a grind. It's a mentality thing that we have on our team this year that I feel like is going to take us far away.
Right on.
Well, Maxwell, last question I have for you tonight, man, is a little bit about the guy playing opposite on the other side of the field and another guy who plays behind you. So, I mean, Eddie Hecker, Desmond Williams. It feels like you guys have a really tight unit there. And Coach Chris mentioned Coach Dyson as well, coaching you guys up. Talk to us a little bit about that room, man, because we've talked a lot about the quarterbacks room. We talked with Coach Mental about the running backs room, but I don't think that we've necessarily talked a lot about the secondary and that room and that group of guys, because we never have any worries about you. We knew that you guys were going to be pretty solid. We knew that the running back room was going to be solid. We had some question marks in some other parts of the team, but talk to us about you guys' relationship and kind of the chemistry among the secondary, because you guys' position is unique in that, like, you guys have to cover each other, right, to make sure that things don't get out of hand. Talk to us about that.
Well, I believe it starts with our captains, and those are the two guys you just mentioned, Desmond Williams and Eddie Hecker. The whole offseason, these guys have been getting us in, like, workouts on our own. So we always had a bond because we've been here for a while now. But even with the new guys that came in, the freshmen and my brother as well, we're getting everybody on the same page. Camden Garrett, who has played a lot of games here, I feel like it's a brotherhood, and once you get close to a certain group of people, and you find a way to communicate on the football field, it brings you a lot closer, and that's why I feel like our defense and our defensive backs are like the top in the country, because we're so close. We can move on the string. Everybody can play in different positions in the secondary. But it all starts with leadership. And like, we have 4 corners that we consider leaders, who are Mark Collins, Camden Garrett, me, and Ed, plus one in the back who is Desmond Williams. And then we have Naseem Colvin and then LJ Anderson, who is my brother. We just have a lot of experience now, and it goes a long way for us. Like, watching film, we'll watch film as a defense, and you'll see, like, the leaders stand up and coaching their whole group. Like, you have to do this. We need to be on the same page here. And that just brings our defense closer. So I feel like that's a big part of our defense this year.
Well, I think it's working, man, because like we said, we saw some of that on Thursday night. We saw it last season. I mean, that's a unit that always is well coached, that always performs. And so we'll look forward to seeing more. Maxwell, want to wish you guys the best of luck up in Logan this weekend. We'll be watching. If you haven't already, Wildcat fans, reach out to the Alumni Association. It's my understanding that they have tickets. So go up there, sit with some fellow Wildcat fans, root these guys on against an FBS opponent up in Logan against Utah State. And Maxwell, wish you the best of luck up there, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Go Cats.
Good luck, Max. Go
Thank
Cats.
you. Appreciate it.
Well, we want to thank Maxwell Anderson one more time for taking some time to chat with us on Weber State Weekly. Chris, like we said, like Maxwell said, the secondary is kind of a brotherhood, right? Like we talked to Preston Smith last season at the end of the season. We've sort of like unofficially called Weber State DBU. It feels like of all the positions that play at Weber State, the guys that get drafted, the guys that have success are most likely the DBs, right? I mean, we're seeing Taron Johnson do it right now. I think there's talk about Eddie Heckard going to the league. If Maxwell keeps up what he's able to accomplish on Thursday night, if that stays consistent, I think his name's going to start to rise, his draft stock as well. And so DBU right here in Ogden, man.
Absolutely. We knew that was going to be a big strength of the defense coming into the year. They have so much experience coming back. And still playing without
Mark Collins.
Remind me, isn't Mark Collins? There you go. He's a big part of that. So, but he'll be back, and in the meantime, we got enough depth in that position that don't even lose a step. So yeah, excited for that group to see what they can do this year.
Yeah, so update on Mark. Brett Hine reported from the Standard Examiner reported today after media availability with Coach Hill that it looks like Mark was not on the depth chart again this week. Looks like he might sit out one more week. He's still working through an injury, so Mark should be returning soon. Maybe the Utah Tech game. We'll have to see, but it sounds like, according to what Brett was saying on Twitter this afternoon, probably not going to be available for the game on Saturday against the Aggies in Logan. But take your time. It's a deep group. So
right. Yeah, and those safeties had a huge game on Thursday. Nassim Colvin. If Maxwell, didn't get defensive player of the game, it certainly probably would have been Colvin. 6 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss.
Yeah,
and that guy can just hit. Man.
Yeah,
so.
he was sniffing out everything that they were doing.
Right.
He was just rushing up on the line, getting those TFLs, like you said, just like they weren't getting anything on that side that that he was covering. He was phenomenal, especially in that first half. He came up
right. Yep, Des Williams as well had 5 tackles. Des is an all conference type player. So just he's had some injuries, but he keeps it. He gets health. He stays healthy this year. He's gonna have an all conference year, no doubt.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the game on Thursday night against Western Oregon. We of course talked a lot about a D2 opponent. Sort of knew that the Wildcats they were going to win. Maybe we overestimated ourselves a little bit. In our game day show, we felt that the Wildcats were going to put up 50, 60. That obviously wasn't the case. It felt like there are some things that they're still working on, but Wildcats started out a little bit flat, Chris. Then that safety happened, and we were sort of like, "Oh, what is going on?" So I kind of want to get your thoughts, how you were feeling at that point, man. Because I'll tell you mine. I was like, "Oh man, I hope we're not in for a long night."
Yeah, I mean, it was so early. I wasn't too concerned, considering I know who we were playing. I was more concerned after that first series, offensive series, than the block punt, to be honest. 3 and out with a penalty. Just seems in years past, it's just been a slow start for offenses. It seems like every game, those first few series, you just don't move the ball, and so it's like almost like here we go again. And then the block punt. I know Jay was asked, or he talked about that. I heard him say that he wasn't too concerned with that. That this team, he said, this team is so young that there was players out there that hadn't gotten any game time before, and that was partly part of what happened on that punt. that block punt. So just had some young guys out there. They got that fixed, and punting wasn't an issue the rest of the game. In fact, after that block punt, the special teams did great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
So
not gonna.
yeah, I wasn't too concerned.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Thompson misses a 49-yarder, but like it's a 49-yarder, man. Like I'm not gonna be mad about that. Like
Right.
that's
Right.
a long field goal, man. So it's like, yeah, it didn't go our way.
Yeah.
Like that's okay. But everything else, I think he had two more. It's fine.
Yeah.
Totally fine, right? And everything else went really, really well. And so I would have, the special teams, of course, started off a little rocky, but I mean, special teams is always a strength of Jay Hill coached football teams, and so I'm with you. Not terribly worried about that group. I think they'll figure it out. They'll get coached up. Special teams will be just fine. I mean, I watched the Eastern game, and they are still having problems with their special teams. You know what I mean? Like problems persist there, and it's like, yeah, I mean, they still have some things to work on, but like with Weber State, I'm not as worried. It's sort of like I mean, I don't know if you watched that Eastern game, but
I watched most of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like that's how they are with quarterbacks up there, right? Like they just reload. You don't have to worry about quarterbacks up at Eastern Washington because they're gonna find a guy, they're gonna coach him up, and they're gonna do really, really well. And I think that's what we saw against TSU with them. But for the Wildcats, special teams is always going to get coached up. They're always going to get tight, and so maybe some miscues early, but that's okay. It's okay to have miscues against a D2 opponent. Clean those things up early, get on with business, and it seemed like they did that.
Yeah, I mean, and if there was any, well, there's questions always. There was questions coming into the year with special teams. Have a new punter, the return man sheet's not there. So yeah, there was questions, but that again, like you said, it's special teams is one of those things with a J Hill team that you just feel like you don't ever really have to worry about. And look what we got out of the returns. We saw what Hayes Hadley did. Just unbelievable returns. That's going to be really fun to watch. And then on the kickoffs, on the kick returns, Damon Bankston, he had a great return. So I think we'll be all right there.
The thing that really impressed me with Damon is, I mean, we knew he was fast, right? When we talked about him when he got recruited, we knew he was going to be fast because, he ran track along with, playing football. And there were a couple of sequences, man, where you could just see the acceleration. You could just see him just like start to take off. And it's like there was one where he was up against the sideline and he ends up getting like an extra 10 yards because he's just so quick that like he's getting through, and then the secondary has to go and get him, right? And I was just like, see, like that is why he's so dangerous, because they think they got him dead to rights, and then he just accelerates, and they just can't.
That's a second gear.
Yeah, and then they got to scramble to go and get him. And so I agree. I think that special teams is going to be great. Hayes Hadley was great. He had a lot of really good returns on the punt side, and then I think that as Damon gets more and more kicks, I don't understand. I don't see him not being a good replacement for Rashid Shaheed, who's an all-time Wildcat, right?
Right. Yeah, we'll be okay there for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the offense, because I think it's one of the most important things. It was the thing that everybody was sort of anticipating watching, get our first look at Coach Mental's offense. He promised balance, and that's what we got, right? He had 178 yards rushing, 165 yards passing. You worried about that, or like, nah, it's okay. Still working out the rust.
I would have expected some more yardage, to be honest. But a big part of that was our field position.
Yeah.
We had some great field position, thanks to the turnovers and to those punt returns. So they weren't working with a lot of yardage anyway. If there's any concern for me with the offense, the offensive line needs to play better, I think. I watched the game again today, and it was even mentioned on the broadcast, especially in that first quarter, that offensive line just was getting no push. And so, yeah, if there's a concern, I think that's still where it is. We've got a lot of veteran guys on there. I think it'll improve, but and it improved over the game. I think it did, but that would be my biggest concern coming out of that game.
Yeah, and I mean, Coach Hill talked a lot about the O-line, right, going into the season, about how, had lost some key guys like Cormac Boyer going down with a season-ending injury. So it was like, oh, what a bummer, because I think they fully expected him, a JUCO transfer out of Snow to be that starting center and then not, and so then having to shift guys around. And so I think that you're right that like as time goes on, guys are gonna settle down into their positions a little bit. So long as everybody stays healthy, I think Coach Myers, he's one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. I think he's going to be just fine. It's just a matter of whether guys can get more comfortable with their position, but also the schemes that Coach Mental wants to run. And then, of course, just like you said, being confident and getting that push, because I think they're capable of it. It's just a matter of having that confidence and working through some of those systems.
He lost two linemen that played for 4-year starters, basically. So that's right. That's tough to replace. You have to shift some stuff around with injuries and moving a guy to center. That's probably always going to be the hardest adjustment. You saw that on that first series, a snap infraction, and so that takes a little bit of time to get comfortable with that. So a lot of guys there though that can play for us. So yeah. We'll see how that improves.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say about the offense is the passing game, right? We noted 165 yards passing. Luckily, the Wildcats got it done quite a bit on the ground, which we fully expected. We had full confidence in this running back room, and they delivered. But the pass game, no touchdowns, no passing touchdowns. Everything got done on the ground. 17 of 30 against a D2 defense. What do you think held the Wildcats back over the air?
As I watched it again, Bronson, he missed, I counted about 3 or 4 open receivers. So he's got to improve a little bit on making those throws. There was another one, and that I don't really think it was the throw, that one where Ty McPherson missed that one, but I think that was more of a Ty lost the ball in the lights or something. So so I think, and I think Barron would probably, agree to that there's some throws there that he missed. So yeah, we had some great catches though. So I liked what we saw from the receivers. So that's going to help him for sure. Jacob Sharp, he had 2 great catches, led the team in receiving yards. Hayes Hadley, man, he got broken in half on that one and came down with it. So Justin Malone, 4 receptions. That was good to see.
Good tight end play. We saw that. Coach Mental promised good tight end play, and we saw it, right?
Yeah, the targets are there, and they're capable. Got to get them the ball. And that's been the issue in the past too. Is getting it to those playmakers. Sheed last year, remember that was a big push from Coach Hill. You got to get it to those playmakers and let them do. Get them in space and let them do what they can do. So yeah, got to have some improvement, I think, there with some of those passes. But
yeah, I think that the other thing that's maybe holding the Wildcats back, it's a new system, right? Like, I think that we talked about this in the instant reaction after the game, that the play calling looked good. Like, the variety looked good. The creativity in the play calling looked good. Just seemed like execution was the problem, and it's a new system. Guys are still learning. You're still working through stuff, and so like there's going to be problems. Guys aren't always going to be on the same page. They're going to have to spend some time working through some of those things, and I think as the season wears on, we see that execution, get a little bit sharper. And once that happens, I think it's going to be a really good offense. Like, it's really going to do some interesting things, which is good because it's going to have to get better, especially in those last 3 weeks of October, when really a lot of things need to get worked out because some tough defenses are coming to town, right? Or you're gonna have to play against some tough defenses on the road in Montana State. So execution, right? And I think that over time that will get worked out. So for me, I'm not super worried about 165 yards passing. It'll work itself out. I mean, Barron played the majority of the game, and I think part of that was because he kind of needed to. He needed to continue to run the system and get the experience.
Get him the reps. Yeah. I agree with you. I think you could see it out there at times that they weren't completely comfortable with the whole scheme and everything. They're still learning. This is a big change, and so there was times where you felt like they weren't completely comfortable with it, and that that was played a part in the pace. We've heard that pace is a big part of this offense, that up tempo pace. That tended to slow it down, at times when it felt like they weren't exactly sure and were a little uncomfortable. So that'll improve too, I think, as they get a better hold of this new scheme, for sure.
So on the other side of the ball, man, I think a lot of people were pleasantly surprised by the defensive line. I mean, we talked about it in previous weeks about how we weren't sure, losing George Tarlas, losing, Jared Sheese. There was one more, Logan Latui. Was that who it was?
Yeah.
Had transferred down to Brigham Young, and so had lost a lot of experience on the defensive line, and we're asking guys to step up. And I think they did, man. I mean, by my count,
they stepped up huge.
7.5 TFLs, no sacks though, and that was the thing that I think Gannon Winker was a better quarterback than I think we gave him credit for, because kid's a sophomore, but he was tricky, and they had a hard time bringing him down. Yeah, he was very mobile, and so man, like he was good. I mean, I think they've got
a quick release. Yeah, right. So I think he had more to do with the no sacks than the D line. So there was a couple I think maybe one or two hurries, but no sacks. But I think you're right on with that. That was more the quarterback. He had a quick release. He was mobile, much more mobile than you would expect from a kid with his height. He was a big kid.
Yeah. And plus, they were throwing it out to Thomas Wright, their wide receiver, and that guy was good. Like, that guy could be on.
I said to the people around me, why is this kid playing here?
D2
with his height. He's 6'6", I think he was.
Yeah,
and athletic, and he definitely had some skill there for sure. But the D line, they were huge. Minus 34 net rushing yards, school record. And I think you could, I don't know about you, but I was just amazed at the speed of that defense.
They lived in the backfield.
They were just swarming the ball. So that defensive front, man, they were just, lived in the backfield, swarming the ball. It was really awesome to see. So, that was the biggest concern for me with that defense this year was the defensive line, but mainly the defensive ends. But look what, Shad Pulsifer did end up doing. He played great. And and who was the other one I wrote down here? Braden Wilson. He played well at that end position. You had Zeke Birch at the tackle.
Yeah, Zeke Birch had some big plays in the second half, especially when he really got an opportunity, man. Like, I think he had, I'd have to go back and check the numbers, but at least 2 TFLs himself.
Yeah, 2 TFLs. Yeah. And so that entire D line just performed great that night. And the linebackers played good as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, D-line looked good, pleasantly surprised, like we said. Backers are always going to be fine. I don't think we're terribly worried about the backers because it is a position that not just Weber State, but everybody in the conference seems to reload. I mean, the Big Sky Conference is really, really good when it comes to linebackers, and so I'm not terribly worried about that. And then we already talked about the secondary, but they did struggle a little bit with Thomas Wright. He had 80 yards, 4 catches. What about that matchup do you think was so tough? Do you think it was more Gannon Winker's quick release, or do you think it was a size thing? Because like you said, Wright was 6'6", pretty big dude.
Yeah, when you got 6 inches on a guy, that's always gonna be a challenge. I did see Eddie Heckard kind of go for the ball a couple times where he missed and gave up the reception. That's Eddie will be fine, but there was a couple plays there where he missed. But no, they'll be fine. That was that was great that they had that kind of receiver, given that experience and some challenge there. So I like to see it. So, but didn't really give any big plays. And the defense was great. And just like the special teams, we don't need to worry about a Jay Hill defense.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. So things look good against Western Oregon. The Wildcats, like we said, take the trip up to Logan this weekend to face the Aggies, an FBS opponent. Not sure what to expect. I think obviously, Wildcats beating the Aggies maybe is a tall order with the state of the offense, but a good test anyway. The Aggies coming off of a Mountain West Conference championship and a bowl win last year, but that first game against UConn, they did not look good, and they didn't look. I mean, it was Alabama last weekend, right? They were out in my neck of the woods. They were down in Tuscaloosa, but man, I mean, no points scored. I mean, it's Alabama though, so it's like, well, it's one of the best teams in the country, right? Like this is a lock for the college football playoff. What do you want? So,
they're 40 point underdog. I recorded the game. I intended to watch it. I might still watch it, but I kind of thought with that kind of a score, I don't know what's the point. I don't know what that's going to tell you. I did watch a lot of the Connecticut game. They did struggle early on there, and maybe Connecticut is better than they have been in the past. But they still, they have not gotten things rolling for sure. So it'll be interesting to see what happens Saturday.
Yeah, I don't really know what to expect, right? And so we will see. And so, like we said, Wildcats, get your tickets, head up to next week and support the Wildcats. Wear your purple and be loud, man, because so I think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, they said today it's not going to be on TV, only streamed.
Yeah,
I think you can get the stream for free, but I mean, there's no reason not to make the trip up. It's from Ogden, 45 minutes an hour. Yeah, you can get a ticket through the Alumni Association for $20, I think, and just go to the game. Yeah, it's going to be not quite as hot. It's going to be a little bit cooler, and it'll be an evening game. So don't have to worry about the heat quite so much. And it's a fun atmosphere for a game. If you've been to one there, the students, that's a great student section, and it'd be a lot of fun. Make the trip up.
Yeah, I mean, Logan at this time of year. I mean, this is the best time to go to Logan because it's not going to be super hot. It's not going to be super cold because Logan can get real cold. It's not going to be that. You're going to be up there on a pretty warm September night. It's going to be great. So head up.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Chris. Real quick, man. I wanted to play our this or that. I've got a bunch of these, but I'm gonna have to pick maybe just a couple before we do this real quick. So the point of the game is this: you have to pick one or the other, right? And so I've come up with some that it's like, oh, we're gonna get Chris thinking a little bit. So my first this or that for Chris Ferry is beat Utah State this weekend or beat Montana State on the road in October. Which one would you pick?
Well, we've mentioned we're not sure what to expect from Utah State, but I still feel like that's going to be a tough game to win. So I will say Montana State on the road. I watched a lot of Montana State this Saturday. They played McNeese.
Yep.
They didn't look that good in that first half. Had a much better second half, and but that first half, one big question with Montana State this year is how is Tommy Millett going to be? He was awesome in the playoffs last year, but that was pretty limited view of him. And the big question with him is how is he going to pass the ball? We know he can run. He didn't do a whole lot that first half. He did a lot better the second half. Afonse's still out. He'll probably be back by the time we play him in October. And you just got to remember, Montana State lost some real studs, man.
Guys who are now playing in the NFL. They're on 53-man rosters.
Yeah.
For the Rams.
I mean, that's
Troy Anderson's in Atlanta. Like guys, dudes.
Right. And that's you think about how crazy that is for a Big Sky team to put in one class 3 guys in the NFL. 2 of them drafted, and one went down there and did so well he made it as an undrafted free agent. So they lost a lot. They lost basically their whole offensive line. So as I look more and more at Montana State, I think they had a better team last year than this year. And, we almost beat them this year. Probably should have beat them last year. I mean, I think we can go up there and get a road win. I'll go with Montana State.
Gonna pick the Montana State. Okay. So
I'll be there. So I'll be happy with a win. So, and you should be there too, Kobe.
I'm still looking at the flight. Like I said, there's a direct flight from Nashville to Bozeman.
Right.
The thing that's killing me is hotels up there that weekend are crazy expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm spending a night in Bozeman and then a night on the way back at West Yellowstone. It's about half the price. So it's about an hour and a half down to West Yellowstone. I know that wouldn't apply to you, but yeah. Well, or you could meet up with your coworker there and stay with him maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. But all right, I'll do one more of these, man.
All right.
Okay, here I'm gonna do the Davis one. So, which would you prefer, holding Davis to 100 yards rushing, or holding them to 100 yards passing?
I would prefer to hold them to 100 yards rushing, because I think that's where their strength is.
Yeah. Alonzo
Gilliam had
preseason MVP
right.
on the offensive side.
Right.
You know,
He had 115 yards against the Pac-12 defense in Cal this week. Their quarterback is young, and that Hastings kid, so he threw 2 interceptions. He doesn't look bad, but 242 yards passing in that game, but that's 50 attempts. He had 50 passing attempts. So
wow.
I would feel better if we held him to 100 yards rushing. That means we would kind of, slow down
Maxwell and the secondary do the thing, huh?
Right. So I'll go with that one.
That's where I think I end up too. Rather hold them to 100 yards rushing and then just see what they can get done through the air, because I fully trust that secondary, man. Those guys will get it done.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule. Like we said, Saturday, September 10th, Wildcats taking the trip up to Utah State, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Will be streamed on the Mountain West Conference's website for me, or for you, if you're in Ogden, just go to the game so you can get your tickets through the Alumni Association. Or if you're not able, call the athletics office and see what they can do. But make sure you go up there, sit with fellow Wildcat fans, get loud, cheer on the Wildcats up in Logan. Then next week, Saturday, September 17th, Utah Tech coming to Ogden for the first time as a D1 program. So that game will be Mountain Standard Time at Stewart Stadium. You can get your tickets at WeberStateSports.com. Get up there and tailgate with Chris and with Jared. They'll be out there, man. And if you're like me and you're out of market, ESPN Plus for you. Then September 24th, the Wildcats take the trip out to Davis to face the Aggies. 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That game will be on ESPN Plus. We'll probably do some kind of like a watch party on Twitter or something like that for that one while the Wildcats are on the road. Then they will be home again. It looks like there's a bye week in between there. And then Saturday, October 8th, against Eastern Washington, coming into Stewart Stadium. EWU's run defense is not fixed, so it could be bad for them. But
that game was closer. I mean, what was it? 10 points, 7 points? Is that the final?
It was close for pretty much the whole game. TSU was right in there. EWU had a better offense.
Yeah, and they gave up 2 fumbles in that first half. Texas State did, or Tennessee State. That was a big reason why they got a couple of those touchdowns. So that game was close. That could have easily gone Tennessee State's way.
The other thing for TSU was penalties just killed them. Oh my gosh, so many penalties. Like I remember there was a sequence where they went, like there was a penalty on literally every play. Even the punt, there was a penalty. It was like, so just Eddie George and his team over there at TSU here in Nashville, they got to clean some stuff up for the Tigers. But the Tigers, they're building something over there, man. So
right.
But
and you mentioned penalties. That's another thing Weber needs to work on, right?
Yeah, that's true.
10 penalties, 115 yards.
Sione Lapuaho ended up getting sent off, right? Yeah, 2 unsportsmanlike conducts. So just work on some of those. Shore up the discipline a little bit, and they'll be just fine. But
first game, yeah.
Yeah. So Wildcats October 8th to take on EWU, 6 p.m. ESPN Plus to get your tickets. Get out there and tailgate with Chris. Be good times. So we'll wrap up the show. Email us, WeberStateWeekly@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have our Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/WeberStateWeekly, and then the blog. I will be posting our grades. We had our folks, some of our panel members, give their thoughts and give the offense, defense, and special team a grade. And so we'll be posting that to the blog tonight. Hopefully, I got a couple podcasts to edit. We'll see if we can get that up. But then you'll be able to read those and kind of share your thoughts on social media. So, Chris, appreciate you, man, for taking the time to hang out with me, talk some football. We'll wrap up the show like we always do, man. Weber State.
Great.
Great.